we knew we wanted to do a heart coherence meditation at the beginning of the meeting, and we wanted to try to find the best music to use in the background. And out of all my friends and I's collective meditation experience, we all came to the conclusion that the background music for Joe Dispenza's Generous Present Moment um, was the music that was having the most profound effect on us as a collective. So we started trying it out at the beginning of our meeting. I was playing it. It's called Bija, and I was speaking over it, and everybody was loving it. And members of the group were asking me, "Hey, Kyle, could I get a copy of that? Like, what is that music?" And so, because it was early on determined that we were going to be using this pretty much in all of our meetings, I figured that it would be a good idea to reach out to the person that created it. So I Googled who created the background music to this meditation, and sure enough, it was Todd Norian. And so I sent Todd an email saying, "Hey, here's the situation. We have this group." And he basically said, like, "Hey, I would love to talk to you. You can definitely use the music." And he responded with such grace. And so I called Todd, and we hit it off. I told him about this meeting. He indicated that he would love to come be a part of this group. And since that time, we've really become like good friends. We've talked multiple times. And um, Todd, the more I've started to study Todd, happens to be a master yogi. He's been studying yoga since 1980. He's created his own heart-centered yoga practice called the Shaya Yoga. He's an author of a book. He's become like almost like a spiritual friend of mine, and I'm so honored to introduce Todd to share a meditation and then his experience. So warm welcome, everybody, as we welcome Todd to our group with love and light. So Todd, take it away, buddy.
Thank you for that introduction, Kyle. And it's a real honor to be with everybody today. I've really been looking forward to this because I'm a heart follower and I'm seeking out other heart followers. And when Kyle reached out to me, I instantaneously felt his kindness and his companionship. And it's like our hearts just like even over the device that we were using just connected. It's like, yeah, I know you and we've never met before. But I feel like, and I said to him, yeah, I think we're part of the same soul group. And what a blessing that we just found each other. So it was great. And even deeper than the kindness, what I really sensed in Kyle was, and what I have also, is his longing for freedom. And it's like a deep longing to evolve. And it takes a certain kind of humility and a certain kind of courage to be a heart follower, because it's a vulnerable state to be in. And part of this journey of, following the heart, it's like we're going through, we're following the path of the heart, and we're, walking through doors, and we're all evolving through levels of power. You can think of like what you're learning in your life as a level of power. Once you go through, like if you go through a betrayal, instead of the betrayal being an impasse, it becomes a rite of passage, So we're going through all these doors, and to discover, we have a vague sense of where we're going, but we don't know it because it's very mysterious, and then it can change halfway. So it's almost like we're entering into a maze of evolution. And you can either go dragging your feet resisting it, or you can go with such utter delight in a state of awe and wonder that the very journey of moving through these levels of empowerment is uplifting for you. And so, they always say, well, when one door closes, another door opens. But what they don't tell you is the hallway is a bitch. And I'm going to talk about the hallway today. So Kyle, is it okay if we do a little meditation first?
Oh, of course. It's all yours.
Okay. So we'll meditate for, roughly 5-7 minutes or so. And there's part of the philosophy that informs Ashaya Yoga and what I teach is called the Tantric path. And there's many kinds of Tantra. This one is called Kashmir Shaiva Tantra. And it talks about the threshold. And the threshold is the space where we go to when we're in a deep meditative state, where we're sitting very close to the light of grace or the absolute consciousness, this unbounded, unlimited source of rejuvenative, renewal energy inside, which is where we want to go. So it's like this threshold, and that's the hallway. And we have this place in the middle. It's called Madhya, which means middle in Sanskrit. And then my whole goal is I want to bring these teachings into a physical, embodied experience so that you have direct knowing of your divine nature. It's not a concept. And so inside the body, we have a central channel. You've probably known about that. It's called the Sushumna, she who is most gracious. And it's like the channel of transcendence. But in the Tantra, it's always a two-way highway. There's the longing to evolve. We'll call that the liberation current. I'm reaching from this limited state into freedom. And it's an upward flow from the base of the spine up through the top of the head, thousand-petaled lotus. And at the same time, there's the embodiment current, which is this vast, unlimited, infinite space desires to become you as you in order for it to know itself even more fully. So as much as you're reaching toward a universal sense of your own cosmic unity, there's the unity energy reaching down into you. Unity desires to find its diversity. So if you think of the word universe, the one song becomes the multiverse in us. And the ultimate goal, I think, is that we suddenly recognize and wake up to our own divine nature, which is human nature, which we come to realize through these levels of empowerment as the cloaks start to dissolve, the veils that keep us from the revelation of who we truly are. I mean, in a way, this universal energy secrets itself in order to reveal itself. And that's a whole other process I can get into later. So I'll invite you to sit up wherever you are. It's just helpful to be able to sit with your spine upright, but be relaxed. And we want to honor the natural alignment of the spine. So you guys know your anatomy, there's 4 curves of the spine. To get the low back to curve, and this is, we want to optimize the flow of, like I said, longing for freedom and longing for embodiment by getting the curves adjusted. And this is where, like in my method, I'm not just seeking the heart. Yes, that's the ultimate, but it's really, as Kyle was saying, the coherence of body, mind, and heart. It's a little where we health, information, us and ourselves and us and others, seeing the divine all around us. So manually turn your thigh bones in. I don't know if you can see, I can just, sorry, I have my jeans on. At least I'm not in my pajamas. Okay, so that's the rotation of the thigh this way. And then you kind of stick your butt out, and that's going to give you a low back curve. You should feel the spinous processes go in. And then you lightly draw your tailbone down. Let's get this back up. And I like to join my index fingers and thumbs, palms down. So this is a mudra. And think of the index finger as our limited self, and the thumb is our universal self. And so we touch, and where they come together is like a threshold. Palms down. It's also known as the mudra of knowledge, Jnana mudra. Close your eyes, please, draw inward. Invite the light of the universe to fill you in the form of your breath. And as you inhale, this light becomes effulgent around the heart and lungs. And we can assist the radiance of that light by physically aligning even more. So when you inhale, lengthen from your hips all the way up to your armpits. So your side ribs open to accommodate the vast spaciousness of the heart. And then take the head of your arm bones back. That's the top of the shoulder. Instead of slumping down, which restricts lung capacity and kind of protects the heart, the arm bones go back and you lift your heart, courage to walk through the fires of our life. Lift your throat, draw your head back by moving your palate back. So you have to visualize the center of the roof of your mouth. And you just lightly draw it back. I like to visualize sometimes like a head sling that comes down under the upper palate and the back of the occiput, which is the little ridge in the back of your skull, and just lifts the head up and draws it back. As you inhale, open to the universal energy. We could open to light, open to grace. There's many names. And as you exhale, let your hips settle into the earth. Release anything that blocks this light. Sometimes there's just the stress of life, the new situation we all find ourselves in. Life is different now, temporarily, I hope. So you inhale light, exhale anxiety or worry. And then, if you will, visualize, sense, or imagine 3 globes of light. One at the upper palate. These are about the size of a small apple. And one at the base of the heart. And the third one in the center core of the pelvis. With each breath, these globes of light begin to glow a little brighter. And let your visualization be very soft, effortless, almost automatic. You don't need to force it. And then imagine you could align these globes so that the palate is over the pelvis and the heart is in the middle. I like to imagine lining up the little circles of light like at the eye doctor's office. And they become vertically placed now, one over the other. And then imagine these 3 globes pulsing in harmony together. And then imagine you could connect all 3 points with a radiant shaft of light, starting at the base of the spine, penetrating the heart, and moving up through the upper palate, through the third eye that's at the brow, and piercing the 1,000-petaled lotus at the top of the head, our opening to this vast sky of consciousness. Let yourself draw in to this central channel, which represents the midline, the place where time and space connect, the place where your dreams become reality. Let yourself enter into the threshold, the source of creation itself, embodied in you as you. And we come to recognize that we are the crystallization of the divine's desire to know itself. And be with your own longing for freedom for the next minute or two and just dwell, surrounded in this central channel like a column of light now, vast and open and free. And then place your awareness on the flow of your breath and breathe into your heart. The heart is the center of the center, the place where earth and sky merge. In the heart, there's 3 energy centers above and 3 energy centers below. The heart truly is in the center. And then gently bring your palms together in front of your heart. So we place the heart in front of the heart. The palms are the externalization of this heart. And then create an intention for yourself for this day. What does your heart most deeply desire? And then offer that from the space of the midline. It's like sending out a signal to the universe, a GPS signal, and then the universe can locate you. And it begins making your intention manifest. Honoring your heart, let's honor the hearts of everybody here on this in this meeting, and let the light of your heart go out to your loved ones and all those suffering all across the globe. And please join me. I'm going to chant the sound of Om, and the Om is just symbolic, but it holds the space of all sounds itself. So by chanting that one sound, you connect to all sounds. Take a breath in. A gentle bow to your own heart. And then as you're ready, you can open your eyes and can offer a namaste to everybody here, even though you're muted. So thank you so much. And Kyle asked if I would just share a bit more and talk about um, just some of the aspects of life of being a heart follower, and then we'll open it up for discussion. And I want to hear from all of you. And get your questions. And anyway, I look forward to being in like a nice back and forth conversation with you. Um, but let me talk about the hallway for a bit. Anybody in a hallway? Hello. Uh, so the premise I go with is that everything in life is for your awakening. It's an attitude, it's a belief, and attitude is power. The spiritual life, the spiritual path, the path of the heart is all about empowerment and remembrance. Empowerment means that you have your hand on the dimmer switch of life, and you can dim your light down or you can make it brighter, and it's up to you. There's a certain amount of fear in that. It's like, oh my God, that's a big responsibility. But on the other side of that is the empowerment. And I think it takes enough hallways to ignite the intensity of the fire of the heart to want to make a change. Sometimes we don't change until we hit bottom. And sometimes we have to go deeper below the bottom to make a change. But everyone's going to find that they're going to bump up against some challenge in life that you get to choose. And I can say just with so much gratitude that the challenges that have come for me in my journey have really uplifted me. And it's because I've applied, oh, everything in life is for my awakening. So when a challenge comes, like, well, how is that for my awakening? And you may not know my story, but I was a jazz musician. That's what I started off as. So classical music first, piano, and then jazz. I mean, if you listen to my music, there's really a lot of jazz sensibility underneath, but it's so far below the yoga part up here that you won't hear it. And when I studied jazz, right across the street from the university was a yoga studio. So, I followed my heart from being a classical musician. I didn't do so well. I realized I don't really like studying music that's 200 and 300 years old. And besides, the competition was so intense. I was like a hero in high school, but when I got to college, it was like I really couldn't cope with the pressure and the intensity. But I loved jazz all the time. So I followed my heart and I made this big change. And right across the street from the university was a yoga studio. And then a friend of mine invited me to visit him at this yoga retreat center. It's like a holistic health center. And he talked me into going to this course called The Quest for the Limitless You. So I went there. I went for 10 days and I stayed for 13 years. And I changed I just discontinued my music studies. I was given a fellowship to do my master's program in jazz education. And it turns out where I went was a yoga ashram with a guru and all that. And I remember calling from the payphone. This was in 1982. We didn't have cell phones then. And canceling my fellowship. My professors were so pissed off. And then, of course, I had to tell my parents I wasn't pursuing my music career. And they thought I joined a cult. And, they were right. But my argument was always, well, what's the cult you're in? So that was kind of some rough waters for me for a while in my family. But after a while, they saw I was happy, I was healthy, and what parent doesn't want their kid to be happy and healthy? Plus, I did so much spiritual work on myself and so much emotional processing that when I was with them, I was so present, it started to shift them. And they started pouring out all their problems, and I was able to hold space for them. And my parents, I'm not a psychotherapist, but they felt so loved in my presence. Then my mom came and visited, and then she's doing yoga now. My dad, even he died recently, but he also was very respectful of it. So I think through my own personal journey, and as I made peace with my own parental issues, I made peace with my actual parents. And that's the primary relationship. And once that was established, I felt like I just was ready to take off. Um, but then what happened is after 13 years of devoting myself and practicing celibacy, because that was part of the practice there, I did eventually get married. But I'm saying that because the founder was accused of having sexual misconduct and abuse of power and financial abuse and all this, which is often the case. I mean, who hasn't heard a story like this before? But it was really devastating for me because I was such a strong believer. Um, and I went through dark night of the soul. You know, I moved out eventually. I stopped chanting. I stopped doing yoga for a while. And I really had to make peace with myself. So the betrayal that I felt was on such a deep level. So I did some healing work around that. And then I joined another community for 15 years, another method of yoga. It was a little more open, a little more free. I really loved it. And after 15 years, the same damn thing happened where the founder was accused and the whole community disbanded again. So I went through two betrayals like that. Well, after two times, I didn't want to strike out three times. Um, but I kind of discovered my role in that too, like my capacity of sort of giving over my power, not recognizing the gifts. I call it shadow hugging. When you appreciate someone else so much, you pour everything into them by making yourself small. And I recognize all the qualities I respected in those teachers, I mean, before their fall, were qualities that I wanted in myself, but hadn't recognized. And so that's what made me put them up on a pedestal. And then, you know, you put anybody up on a pedestal, their life is going to knock them down. So I had really deep learnings, and I went through this process where my betrayal became a rite of passage. And in my teaching, I would ask groups, okay, who's been betrayed before? And I'm talking about, it can be as little as um, somebody said, you know, like in a married couple, all right, honey, I'll be home at 6, and they don't get home till 8 o'clock. There can be so many, it's just, you don't do what you say you're going to do. Can be the sort of the lightest betrayal. That doesn't have a lot of impact. You know, we recover from those, but then having an affair, or we hear sex in the clergy, um, abuse from a boss. I mean, it's everywhere with the Me Too movement. Okay, like that's been happening maybe since forever, but now we have evolved spiritually. We become, I call it adult spirituality, where we rise up to not keep secrets anymore and to say it. So anyway, I'll say, you know, if you haven't been, and not everybody raises their hands in my group. Who's been betrayed? Not everybody raises. And I say to the younger ones, I say, well, if you haven't been betrayed, just wait. I think the spiritual journey must go through the very intense fire of betrayal on whatever level that is for you, in order to get to the other side of that betrayal, to learn the lesson of self-love, self-empowerment. How about the lessons of forgiveness? So what happened for me is, if it weren't for those two betrayals that I had, I never would have had the fire and that longing to want to build community myself and have it be, you know, um, an empowerment for all, rather than one person at the top being empowered. And that's when I developed my own yoga method. So I bow to those teachers and those experiences, and I have forgiven. And, you know, forgiveness always comes with a boundary. So I'm going to forgive them because I don't want to push anyone out of my heart. But I'm not going to invite them over for dinner. Like, hey, come on over. Let's shoot the breeze together. No. Um, the idea of forgiveness, of course, we all know, is to release yourself from the burden of hurt that you're carrying. It doesn't condone the other person. So I was able to forgive myself because it's a spiritual practice. I want to be free. I don't want to be carrying around all this stuff. And when we carry around resentment, regret, regret is our failed attempt to change the unchangeable. Regret is always stuck in the past. And, oh, I wish I didn't say that. Oh, I wish I didn't do that. I mean, I could have regretted. I wish I didn't give up my music, but I'm still creating music. I wish I didn't sort of sell my soul to these teachers and, but what I see is, no, I poured myself wholeheartedly, 100% into my belief that there's freedom, there's truth. And back then I established my own mission statement, which I want to bring heaven on earth. I want to bring happiness. So what I'm trying to say is, everything in life is for your awakening, but it's up to you to empower yourself to say it, to mean it, and then to recognize that you have choices. You have a choice. So the second thing I wanted to just bring out is that everybody wants freedom from suffering. Everybody wants to be happy. But the yogi doesn't just want temporary happiness or haphazard happiness, which is like kind of a halfway happiness. Meaning we want to get to the source of joy itself. And the Tantra that I study and that I teach says, at the very essence of your core is joy. That is your true nature. And if we look back, it's like, well, what's the nature? What is the nature of the universe? Nature is freedom, like absolute freedom. The universe is free. And then what's the nature of freedom? Joy. Because the nature of freedom is whenever you're feeling pain and all of a sudden the pain diminishes, you feel good about that. You feel happy. I used to get migraines, and when I had a migraine, no one wanted to be around me. I didn't even want to be around myself. But as soon as that migraine lifted, my joy came back. So the nature of freedom is bliss. Knowing these things, then we don't want to stop short of securing our happiness. So I like to think we want to go beyond happiness to the place where we can thrive. Thriving is consistent. Think of happiness as the surface of the ocean is all waves. We go up and down. So we're happy, we're sad when it goes down. We're not in control of the waves because it's affected by the wind, it's affected by nature itself. We are designed to go up and down. I want to thrive, and that means I have to penetrate to the depths of the ocean underneath. And I have to recognize that I'm not an oceanless wave. I am a wave that is infused with the vast freedom of the ocean. And so all these practices, I would venture to say that the heart coherence is a similar thing. We're wanting to learn how to remember that the universe is in us as us, and then it went through a lot of trouble to become you. The universe has gone through a lot of trouble to become you. And that's the source of our capacity to thrive, even through challenges, even, like to not get so attached to temporary happiness. I want to get to a place of permanent joy where I recognize, in every moment of the day that I am part of something greater. And this part of something greater has infinite wisdom, has infinite space for me to go up and down. And then when I go down, I'm not so bummed out about it. What happens is we go into a little bit of sadness, and then we latch onto it and we start adding, yeah, I'm really not enough. I really don't have what it takes. And then you get to, oh, I'm a failure. Now, all these attitudes, instead of everything in life is for my awakening, listen to this attitude. Life keeps happening to me. That same thing keeps happening to me. I keep bumping into these people that abuse me. I keep getting into horrible relationships. And we shift to the belief that no, life is not happening to you. Life is happening for you. And when we can get to that quality of embrace through deep acceptance of what's happening, then we get to a place where we can thrive more fully in life. And I call that unreasonable happiness, which is happiness for no reason at all. To not need a reason to be happy. And you can't get there just mentally. You have to find a way that this vast miracle of body, mind, heart, these are all the tools of our consciousness, body, mind, heart, are in a harmonious flow on a daily basis. Because that's what helps you thrive. That's why we need these practices, the beautiful heart breath meditation. Let's get ourselves back into coherence. What's another name for coherence? Remembrance. Let's remember that we are the crystallization of the divine's desire to know itself, and let's get on with it. So challenges. Challenges never come to put us down. Challenges only come when we're ready for a promotion, when we're ready to rise up. And I think we all know that, and sometimes it's harder to rise up than others. And sometimes it takes a little longer. When my dad died, I really loved my dad, and I was so sad. But instead of staying in grief, I think it's important. We need to experience grief. It's a human emotion. Part of the problem with grief is if you're afraid of your grief, you go deeper into it, or you start building this sort of platform of denial, which becomes a protective wall around the heart. And that wall of denial keeps getting thicker and thicker. Lack of forgiveness, resentment builds it, regret builds it. Like all these sort of negatively empowered emotions start to build up this sense. So if the veil is so thick, your reality, you can only see as clear as your heart is clear. Okay? The heart becomes the glasses through which we look through. So if you're not doing heart purifying meditations, and even just like walking in nature can be a good thing, but to do things that are very good for us and healthy for us, we build up. And then it's very hard to remember because we can't see. So the idea of challenges come to bring us life-enhancing change. The obstacles we face in life, through this attitude, as life is happening for me, not to me, makes obstacles into opportunities, makes stumbling blocks into stepping stones, and makes what you think is a setback in life a setup for a comeback. I'll quote Joel, my mentor, Joel Osteen. I know there's a lot of controversy around him, but anyway, he has some good things to say, uplifting. So that's it. So for me, the spiritual journey is the human journey. And the human journey is about shifting from victim consciousness, where life is happening to me, to victory consciousness, where life is happening for me. And with that attitude, any problem we have makes us stronger. I heard a teaching once that said problems, they're the source of life. Life is synonymous with problems. He said, if you don't have any problems, you should go out and get some right away. You should go get some problems, because problems stimulate solutions. And to get to the solution, you have to employ your creativity to get yourself around that problem. So problem actually stimulates growth, and I would say evolution as well. And the only people who don't have problems are in the grave. And if you don't think you have a problem, that's a problem. So then our journey is, how do we embrace these problems as opportunities, as possibilities? And, we're the magicians of life. we have the capacity to pull the rabbit of grace out of a hat.